All right. Timberwolves, man, they gave it a go. They left everything out on the table during round one of the playoffs. Blood, sweat, and tears were shed, but in the end, it was the Memphis Grizzlies who took care of business, and they looked like the more complete team. They finished out games strong, night in and night out, ultimately taking down the Wolves in 6 games, beating Minnesota 114-106 Friday night. Reggie, a lot more closely contested and heated of a matchup I think a lot of people expected, as the Wolves, just the 7 seed, started the series out, stealing game 1 in Memphis. And it looked like at times they were clearly the better of the two teams, despite the Grizzlies' number 2 seed status. So plenty for the Wolves to learn and grow from here. Just your initial thoughts on that disappointing round 1 exit for the Wolves, despite owning big leads and showcasing some of that just amazing talent on the floor for most of the series.
They got to learn how to close, man.
That's it.
They got to learn how to close. The problem with the Timberwolves is they are too talented for their own good. And sometimes they relied on that talent down the stretch when they should have just played basketball, played the type of basketball that got them, the double-digit leads that they got. I think it's very interesting, man. It's very interesting because what we saw yesterday with the Grizzlies playing against the Warriors is they have a lot of grit to them. But even against a more experienced team like the Warriors, there's a lesson for them to learn, and them learning how to close, because they didn't get a chance to close that game out. And maybe some watching that game, I think I was watching that game thinking that Memphis at times looked like the better team, and they ended up losing. And it's just so funny because in that last series, it was the opposite. And you can't be a Timberwolves fan and watch the series and think back on the series and just think like, man, we messed up. We blew it.
It stings, man.
And it's only because the Wolves just haven't been there before yet, and they don't know how it is to close games out. And really, how it is do what got you there to get you over the top. At times they were playing some great basketball. Ball movement was on point. Cat's making buckets. Ant is making great shots. And then, they talked about it before the game. Chris Finch was like, look, we got to stop playing hero ball when things slow down. And it's like, look, they haven't been there before, so they don't know how else to be. They're like, look, we're just going to do it. Cat jacks up that long 3 out of nowhere and misses. And that just kind of seemed to help turn the tide. Tyus Jones comes through with the clutch 3 at the buzzer, at the shot clock buzzer, and it's just like, dang, man, here we go. Here we go. And so I think one thing that the Wolves can learn from this is just how to be a better closer. And it really just takes experience. Now they've been in these experiences where they've lost these leads. They've blown these double-digit leads several times. And that should fire them. That should fuel them to be better and to kind of revise and go back to the lab to see what they can do better to help themselves get over the hump, because what we've seen is that they are talented enough to play with anybody. It's just them being able to learn how to win, and not only learn how to win, but win consistently.
You kind of touched on it right there. So this may be kind of a hard question to answer, but I mean, where do we go from here, right? As a whole, this season was a huge success. I mean, a lot of experts didn't have the Wolves winning, 30 games or so overall. So a lot to build off. But I mean, I guess specifically outside of just experience, which there's not a lot you can do again during an off season or draft or, building in the regular season. What needs to happen moving forward for this young, inexperienced team to take that next step?
I think maybe they need a little bit more than Pat Bev.
Okay,
I think he was a great piece to add, and he'll continue to help them, moving forward, and kind of be that veteran mind and that veteran presence to help them out. But I think they need another veteran to come in there and be able to give them some valuable minutes. And I don't know how they add that veteran in there in the mix, but they need to add a guy, I think, to get them some I've been here before mentality to, help them kind of, get out of some of their habits when the chips get down and they want to play hero ball. Like this guy's just like, okay, yeah. And it's funny because like they had that guy in Jimmy Butler years ago, but he was just so daggone toxic here and couldn't get along with his teammates that it just didn't work out long term. And so I just think that with another year of maturation, now they've been to the playoffs. Now it's an expectation that they should be going back with the talent assembled because we've seen, we've seen that they have it. And so now it's learning from this experience and maybe grabbing like another piece of some sort, a veteran player of some kind to help them get over the top.
Closing out here just real quick, I want to hand out some quick just end of the season awards. I was going to ask you the cliche, who's the MVP, Cat or Ant, but I want to change that a little bit and tweak it. More so, I want to say, is there any question moving forward who the leader, the building block, the cornerstone of this team is? Is it still Cat? Or there's some rumblings that maybe it's time for Ant to try to take this team over and put the team on his back and shoulders moving forward.
So here's the thing, and allow me to step on this soapbox a little bit. Now look,
yes, sir.
I am not blind to the fact that Cat has some improving to do. Okay,
no doubt.
I understand that, and he knows that. And there are some times that, he has put himself in some bad positions out there on the floor. And he said some things that you're just like, okay, Cat, like, let's just dial it back just a little bit. Okay? It's okay. It's all right.
Was that necessary? You're right.
But I will say there are so many people so quick to dunk on Cat.
No, you're right.
And I think the issue is like, he's still growing as a player, and everybody's like, "Look, year 7 now, going into year like he's not a young guy anymore." But like honestly, like you're talking about a guy that has only been to the playoffs twice now. The first time he really was a little hamstrung. This time he was trying to figure it out. And so you would hope that in the natural evolution of a player, that the next time he goes to the playoffs, he'll learn a little bit more from these past 2 experiences and he'll go out and dominate like Shaq wants him to do. And so I think it's interesting because this is still a team that goes as Cat goes. And I do say that Ant is the guy that you definitely want to build around, but I think he needs Cat there to help share some of the load. And so to answer your question, it's an Anthony Edwards world that we're living in right now. I think we've seen it. He grew up in this playoff series. The dude is a dude. He's a burgeoning superstar in this league. But so is Cat. So let's not be so quick to just write him off because they wouldn't be in this position if not for Cat. And so you kind of got to put some respect on his name. I know he does some things that maybe people are just like, they're tired of it. But my question is, and it has been to all the people that are crying about Cat, is like, what other recourse do you have? You ship away an all-star player and you probably don't get the type of value that you deserve for a guy like that. So you might as well just stick in there, allow the guy to continue to mature, continue to grow, and see where it leads you, because the dude is talented and he's only going to continue to get better. I really don't even think he's reached his prime yet. And at 26 years old, who has? You know what I mean? Like, he still has some very, very, very good basketball left in him moving forward. And I think that the Timberwolves will be a direct beneficiary of it. Build around Cat and Ant.
Very well said. How about the best 6 man for the Wolves? Handing out some quick awards here. Best 6 man coming off the bench. Is there one guy that just kind of jumps out for you?
J-Mac. Jordan McLaughlin.
Love
that. The dude is a dude. Like, I like his game a lot. And how about him getting critical minutes down the stretch in that game over D'Lo?
As a Surface fan, man, I sat down and watched those playoffs start to finish. I was so impressed with him. I mean, I was looking at him, triple checking him, like, wait a minute, who's this guy again? Because like you said, stealing minutes from D'Lo, I guess we got to touch on that real quick. 10 seconds is the writing on the wall for D'Lo to, hit the trade machine here this offseason?
I think they take some calls. I think they field
for
some
sure.
calls. But once again, like you traded D'Lo for Wiggins, and so it's just like, okay, what type of value are you gonna get for a D'Lo? I think if you want maybe like a true traditional point guard, I mean, maybe you shouldn't have got rid of Ricky Rubio,
Mm.
but I think you have to find a player who is complementary to Cat and Ant. And D'Lo seems to be that guy, but he's so inconsistent on the floor.
Mm.
And I question his basketball IQ so much sometimes because he does some things that you're just like, what are you doing?
Mm.
But I think you keep him unless you can find good value for him because like he's a piece and we've seen at times that he can positively affect the basketball. I mean, look at the play-in game. He can positively affect basketball games, but it's so like hit or miss. It seems that maybe you try to find someone who you feel like could be consistent. So I think you keep the line open. You're like looking at the phone like, hey, call me, and then you're looking at the phone waiting on it to light up about D'Lo. But I don't think you're just like, oh, we got to get rid of this guy because, like I said, what do you get for him?
That's exactly it. And you know me spending all this time during the pre-draft process. I'm all about finding value, and you don't just get
Mm-hmm.
rid of the guy just to get rid of him. You try to at least maximize some value. Still a household name. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
definitely not a guy that, again, you're just going to kick to the streets just because he got a little cold during that last stretch of the playoffs. So
Yeah.
Grizzlies, by the way, did lose game one last night to the Warriors. Going to be interesting to
Yeah.
see who comes out of that series and into the conference finals, no doubt.